The neighborhood looked like the picture of perfection. Every lawn trimmed exactly 3 inches, mailboxes freshly painted, and the streets so quiet you could hear the sprinklers click from across the road. But this perfection didn't come naturally. It came from Karen. She wasn't just a resident. She was the self-declared ruler of the HOA. Karen believed her word was law, and anyone who dared step out of line was a danger to property values. Across the street lived Alex. He was polite, kept to himself, and never caused trouble. But his presence irritated Karen for one simple reason: his Jeep. A black, rugged Wrangler with reinforced locks, dark-tinted windows, and a stance that screamed military utility. To most, it looked cool. To Karen, it was a blight on her perfectly polished suburb. Neighbors often saw Alex coming and going at odd hours, sometimes in plain clothes, sometimes looking sharp and official. He never explained much, but everyone noticed the way he treated his Jeep, with unusual care, almost like it was more than just a car. What nobody in the neighborhood knew was that Alex was part of a police task force specializing in covert surveillance and undercover operations. That Jeep wasn't just transportation. It was government property loaded with tactical gear, recording devices, and encrypted communication tools. Karen, of course, didn't care about any of that. She saw a boxy black eyesore ruining the image of the HOA. She sent Alex complaint letters, left notes taped to his front door, and even stood in front of his driveway one morning yelling that she would escalate this to the highest HOA level. Alex kept calm, never revealing the Jeep's true purpose. His only response was, "Karen, don't touch my vehicle. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Weeks went by, and Karen grew more obsessed. Every time she walked her little dog past Alex's driveway, she scowled at the Jeep like it was mocking her authority. She complained to other neighbors, convincing herself that everyone secretly agreed with her. That Jeep is dangerous looking. What if children try to play around it? What if it lowers our property value? I swear, one of these days I'm going to take action myself. Her opportunity came one sunny afternoon when Alex left for what appeared to be just a routine grocery run. She watched him drive off in another, unmarked vehicle and smirked. "Perfect," she muttered. "No one to stop me this time." She grabbed a pair of heavy-duty bolt cutters from her garage, the kind her husband had once used to cut a chain-link fence, and marched across the street like a soldier going to war. Standing before the Jeep, Karen's heart raced with a mix of excitement and self-righteousness. She looked around. No one was outside, though she could feel the curtains twitching. "Good," she whispered. "They'll all thank me later." With a grunt, she clamped the bolt cutters over the heavy steering wheel lock and squeezed. The metal snapped with a sharp crack. She tossed the broken lock aside like a trophy. Karen yanked open the door and climbed inside, wrinkling her nose at the smell of leather and cold steel. She began rummaging around, expecting to find nothing more than messy tools. Instead, she found black tactical vests marked "Police," radio equipment buzzing with static, and a laptop secured with multiple locks. She even noticed a folder with a red label, "Confidential." Instead of realizing she was in over her head, Karen's curiosity grew. What on earth is all this junk? He's probably some kind of paranoid prepper. This is exactly why people like me need to enforce the rules. She grabbed one of the radios, pressing buttons as if it were a toy. What she didn't know was that the Jeep was rigged with a silent alarm, an alert that had just pinged Alex's phone and the local task force. Karen was too busy snooping to notice the sound of approaching engines. Within minutes, 2 unmarked SUVs turned the corner, rolling down the cul-de-sac. They didn't drive casually. They moved with purpose. Doors flew open and plainclothes. Officers stepped out, scanning the area. Neighbors peered from their blinds, holding their breath as if they were watching a live crime drama. Then Alex emerged. He wasn't smiling. His badge hung clearly from a chain around his neck, and his eyes locked directly onto Karen, who was still half inside the Jeep. "Karen," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. "Step away from the vehicle. Now." Karen froze, gripping the radio like a stolen prize. "Wait, what? This car is a violation of HOA standards. You can't just leave." "You cut a lock," Alex interrupted. "You broke into government property. Do you understand what that means?" Her face drained of color as the officers confirmed the damage. The neighbors watched wide-eyed as the mighty HOA enforcer suddenly looked very, very small. Karen tried to regain control the only way she knew how, by yelling. "This is harassment. I was protecting the neighborhood. HOA rules say vehicles like this aren't allowed. You can't arrest me for doing my duty." But Alex didn't even raise his voice. He simply nodded to the officers. "Read her rights." As Karen's wrists were cuffed, she sputtered excuses, looking desperately at the neighbors for support. But none of them came to her defense. In fact, some looked relieved. One whispered, "Finally, someone put her in her place." The entire street had gathered at their windows, watching the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA get escorted away like a criminal. Later that evening, Alex quietly returned home. The Jeep sat safely in his driveway, this time with an even stronger lock. Neighbors cautiously approached, curious but respectful. One of them asked softly, "Alex, was all that really official?" He gave a small smile but didn't answer directly. "Let's just say it's best if no one touches that Jeep again." From that day forward, Karen's reign of terror was over. The HOA operated more peacefully, and the neighbors had a new level of respect for the quiet man across the street. They learned 2 lessons that day: never meddle with things you don't understand, and never underestimate the Jeep parked at the end of the driveway, because sometimes it belongs to a police task force.